Thom Malone is with us now. Tom, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, Ger, how are you?
Yeah, good. So we should talk about, John mentioned Denoli's victory in Cheltenham in the 90s when we couldn't buy a win. What is it about the Denoli story, apart from the Cheltenham victory, because everybody likes that winner, but what was it that made that story so resonant and therefore this recent passing something that is affecting kind of slightly even beyond the racing community?
Yeah, I just think the story of Tom Foley and Denoli is that of, you know, kind of ordinary people, and National Hunt racing was always a sort of seen as the small man's game. And I mean, Denoli and Tom Foley were the sort of ultimate epitome of that. You know, they were, you know, one man, Tom Foley, and, you know, his owner, Dan O'Neill, and Denoli. You know, he was an ordinary Carlow farmer. You know, before we ever went to Bagnallstown to visit Willie Mullins' yard, we had Tom Foley and Denoli, and, you know, he worked him just up a grass hill on his farm. He bought him for less than $7,000 from Goffs when he went to go buy another horse. He didn't really have much success before or after with other horses. And, you know, it was just really, really sad. Denoli, it's a bit naff to say he was the people's champion, but that's really what he was. The horse was on the news every night of the week. When he ran, it was just incredible. Obviously, look, everyone says the Cheltenham victory, but actually following that, there were incredible wins at Leopardstown in particular. It's a win in the Hennessy, what was called the Hennessy in '97 when he won. There was over 20,000 people in Leopardstown. I mean, I think it's still the record crowd. And the replay was put on, it's worth checking out. It's on Racing TV social media last night. You can't hear the commentary over the crowd. It was just phenomenal from Denoli. And, you know, Tom Foley says, I read back a few interviews last night. He said the horse was effectively on 3 legs back then. He was just the most incredible, clear character of a horse. And Tom Foley was just this absolute everyman. A wonderful, wonderful gentleman. He was straight talking as well. He wasn't, you know, just happy to be here. I know he wasn't delighted with the way things ended up later on in life. And, you know, he's definitely isn't happy with the way trainers kind of have to operate now. And, you know, if a small trainer gets a horse like Denoli now, they'd have to sell. Otherwise it would just be the most terrible business decision. But again, stories like Jake McManus came to him with an open check. And I mean, most people, that's their absolute dream scenario, isn't it? But Dan O'Neill and Tom Foley said no, they kept him. And like the horse wasn't straightforward to train. It's not like he ran a lot, but he had plenty of injuries. And he came back from those injuries. And like I say, the most brilliant comeback from those injuries was the '97 Hennessy win at Leopardstown.
Okay, so again, I think it's that bit where a horse crosses over and the people behind the horse ultimately are the ones who caused the horse to cross over, and that's what we've lost this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're going to be cheering on Irish horses at Cheltenham in 3 weeks' time, and you know, they're going to be owned by millionaires and billionaires and bankers. They're not really owned by Carlow farmers, you know. And there is that difference in connection now. Like Gordon Elliott's going to send 56 horses to Cheltenham. You know, it's just, these are like armies and battalions and huge businesses. They're not a farmer and his one horse, and the first time he goes to Cheltenham was the first time he's ever in an airplane, and he's worried about the horse getting sick, and he gets sick himself with the nerve getting off the plane. You know, those things don't happen anymore, and that's one of the multiple reasons why it was such a great story.
Okay, we have had confirmation that there will be no amateur riders at Cheltenham. Patrick Mullins is on the back of one of the papers today talking about going professional. Is this like golf? If you turn pro, if you earn a certain amount, then that's it? You can't darken the threshold of an amateur tournament ever again for the rest of your lives, or is there a bit of wiggle room here?
There is a bit of wiggle room, but I mean, in the case of, you know, Derek O'Connor, Jamie Codd, Patrick Mullins, I mean, it'd be a kind of ludicrous amount of wiggle room where if IHRB allowed them to go back as amateurs, it would. It just wouldn't look good. You are allowed to become a term professional, and then obviously, you know, if it doesn't work out for you, if you have less than 20 odd winners or something like that, you are allowed to go back to the amateur ranks, say, to pursue a career in point to points. But I mean, obviously these boys are so far beyond that point of not riding winners, so it would have to be seen as a kind of a gesture on behalf of the IHRB. Patrick Mullins has said he'll consider it. I don't think Jamie Codd or Derek O'Connor are going to do it. I mean, they make their living from point to points. They're both agents for Goffs and Tattersalls Ireland respectively. And I mean, yes, they're amateur riders and they're absolutely brilliant jockeys, but you know, they need to worry about where they actually make the money over the next 2 years, and that is essentially from the point-to-point sphere. And I mean that in a recruitment sense, like they will be at every single meeting, and then they'll be trying to get, say, the best of the point-to-point talent to come through the sales ring, whether it be at Goffs or Tattersalls, when it comes to those big spring sales. So while Patrick may do it, Jamie Codd won't.
What's the difference between a professional rider and an amateur rider? Explain to us. Do the amateur riders not get paid? Do they get paid differently? Are you allowed to earn money? What is the crack?
Expressly, amateur riders don't get paid. I mean, there is no set fee. I mean, obviously, owners do gift things to them and the like, and you know, they can invoice for services rendered and things like that as well. But essentially, they do not get paid. But you know, say someone like Jamie Codd, he is an agent for Tattersalls Ireland. That is his job, and obviously that falls under it. He rides at point-to-points, so that, well, normally when they're on every sort of Sunday between, you know, October and March, and in that he will come across all the talent in the point-to-point spheres. Then as an agent for the sales company, he'll be trying to, you know, recruit those particular owners if they want to go sell the horses, to make sure that they go through the likes of Tattersalls and that. But expressly, they do not get paid. But obviously, you know, if an amateur rider rides a big race winner at Cheltenham, owners would often you know, thank them in whatever way they do.
And is that all above board? Are you not allowed to do that? Or like, as far as I know, again, and this is some of the kind of stuff that's very opaque for outsiders. If you're a jockey and you're a professional jockey, you get a set amount of the winnings. It's a fixed percent. Is it 10%?
Yeah, I think it's 8 or 10%, or something along those lines. Yeah.
The amateur rider will get paid literally nothing, even if the horse wins like the Grand National.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Officially, anyway, and then I guess it's up to whatever level of discretion or generosity or the owner comes up with to decide to, you know, gift something to an amateur rider.
And that's private between them and the taxman, obviously, whatever. But it's not you don't lose your status. If say I'm an amateur jockey and you're my owner and I win the Grand National for you, and you go, here, I'm going to give you the 8% that I would have given a professional rider, that doesn't affect my status. It's nobody's business. Essentially, yeah. It's not frowned upon or anything.
That would be the... Okay. No, it's not frowned upon. No, it's not frowned upon. But if you know, if in a sort of an official payment were to be made, that would be, you know, it's something that's always been kind of a sort of grey area, and it generally, you know, it is very much at the discretion of connections as to what to.
But I wouldn't lose my amateur status or anything if you decided to pay me for that.
No.
Okay. So why do people stay amateur? I don't really understand. What's the difference? Why wouldn't you just go professional?
Well, the thing about amateur, particularly in Ireland, why you would stay amateur is to be able to ride in point-to-point and be able to ride in bumpers. So Patrick Mullins obviously is a very privileged position, but if you, like, so he will ride all of Willie's best horses in bumpers. So he gets to ride them, whereas, you know, he weighs nearly 12 stone as well. So, like, I mean, the only real classification of race he can ride in on a regular basis without putting himself through absolute turmoil, weight-wise, you know what I mean? So for riders like Jamie Codd, like the top point-to-point riders, like, you know, they will have ridden all those horses that come through the point-to-point sphere, they will have ridden them at the early stages in their career. And again, it's the same for Patrick. He will have ridden all those great horses in bumpers. So you do get to ride a better class of horse if you're a top amateur jockey versus whereas, you know, if you're a slightly, like, what's Jamie Codd rather be? Get to ride all the best Gordon Elliott horses in bumpers, or be sort of third and fourth choice and then having to waste away and then having to give up his actual job. You know, so it's career decisions as well.
Okay, that makes sense. So I think hopefully that we've explained that to people, because that was always one of those things like, well, I don't really understand what the difference or how it works. But okay, good stuff. Champion hurdle and mares hurdle, we want to talk about this, and it's no coincidence that we're bracketing these together, because Epatante and Honeysuckle are both mares, but actually they're at the top of the market for the champion hurdle as well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The mares hurdle, we might just spend as little time as possible on the mares hurdle. If Honeysuckle runs in that, she wins. It's been kind of rendered almost irrelevant now because, you know, Benny de Dieu is not going to run. So the kind of angle we would have had was, you know, those two clashing once again, you know, Benny de Dieu and Honeysuckle. If Honeysuckle turns up in this, she wins. And, you know, obviously Willie Mullins then has a really strong hand with the likes of Concertista in a race he absolutely dominates. The champion hurdle is fascinating. I know we are all aboard the honeysuckle bandwagon because what a mare, you know, 10 in a row. And this, you know, after last year's win in the mares and the way she's performed since, it would seem like a terrible decision just from a competition point of view not to let her have a go in the champion hurdle this year. She's roundabout favourite. Epatante then disappointed when last seen. She's the reigning champion. And then last weekend, the most incredible run by Goshen, who you may remember last year in the Triumph hurdle was set to win by about 25 lengths. He came to the last hurdle and the freakiest accident happened where he jumped it clear. And I've never seen this before, never heard it before, never even come across it in any way, shape or form. His front and hind hooves caught, kind of like this. And so his feet got caught, caused him to stumble, and he fell when he would have won the Triumph hurdle by 25 lengths. It's taken a while to recover from then, but he bounced back in absolutely spectacular style, which sort of kind of give him a line of form that will put him up with Belvedere. So he's now really bounced back into the market. He would have been about 12 or 16 to 1 this time last week. He's now clear third favourite at 4 and 5 to 1. Then we've got kind of the Willie Mullins Brigade, but it's an absolutely fascinating race. And again, your friend, you got Sharjah in there. He's probably one that's slightly overpriced. And Willie Mullins threw another absolute curveball in during the week that he's going to run a horse called James de Burleigh on his first start for Willie Mullins. He's a French import. He's also halved in price this week. He's sort of 12 to 1 in a place, having been readily available at 50 to 1 again this time last week. So there's a big move for him. But yeah, Honeysuckle, V Epatante, the two big mares at the top of the market, and then Goshen has just made it far more interesting since Saturday.
Okay, and what was the story of the mangled gloves?
Oh, that was Appreciated, yeah. So again, Willie Mullins at a press call, and he was asked about Appreciated. He's obviously Warmore the favourite for the Supreme Novices hurdle, and Willie Mullins asked, well, how is he? He goes, yeah, well, he's just cost me a pair of gloves. So Appreciated is in such good form, he managed to basically undress himself in his stable. So horses, when they're in the stables, they wear these big rugs that are belted up, and they're obviously really incredibly heavy and they're difficult to take off. And Appreciated managed to, without opening any straps, take off the rug himself, basically grabbed it with his mouth over kind of his back and pulled it over his own head. And Willie Mullins went in to go and sort them out. And he basically pulled the gloves out of Willie's pocket and ate them.
Right.
So generally you want a horse to show its character and its well-being in a sort of how active it is in its stable when it should be relaxing. So when it looks at those things, Appreciated is in very, very good form, having been able to, first of all, undress himself and then go and, when Willie went to go and put the rugs back on him, he went and ate one of Willie's looks is having these famous sheepskin gloves. Anyway, Appreciated paid to a pair of them. So we'll need a new one that I'm sure he'll be well able to afford if he docks up in the Supreme.
Tom, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks, Ger.
Thom Malone with our weekly Cheltenham Countdown here on OTB AM.